We're in the days following Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. And on the third day, as he rose from the dead, he made several appearances. And then a little few days later, he made more appearances. And then over the next 40 days, even more, both to individuals and to groups. And what I love is to look at those appearances and see what the message may have been. Why did he appear to this particular person? And why did he appear to these other groups? And what did he say? What can we learn? What if you were one of those to whom Jesus appeared in the days following his brutal crucifixion and then his resurrection? What would that have been like? What message would he have had for you or for me? That's what I want to talk about today. Hi, I'm Sam Hunter. This is 721 Live, the media arm of 721 Ministries. I'm glad you're with us. Thank you for joining us. And I think you're going to enjoy this because I'm going to set it up sort of as a narrative. We have, in the days following Jesus' resurrection, we have many accounts, and some of them seem conflicting, and some of them seem a little confusing. So why don't we start with the Apostle Paul summarizing the appearances over those next 40 days, 40 to 50 days. And in 1 Corinthians 15, he says this, "For what I received, I passed on to you as of first importance." Now, that "for what I received and passed on to you," that is creedal language. That is the kind of language that sets up a creed, something that would have been repeated over and over. So in all likelihood, what he's getting ready to write becomes a creed for the early Christians. That Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, that would be Peter, and then to the 12. So Cephas, Peter, is the first appearance. Now, or the first appearance that Paul gives us. Isn't that interesting? Let's come back to that. After that, he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers. When was that? When did he appear to 500 brothers and sisters at the same time, most of whom are still living, which means you can go talk to them and ask them, though some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, that would have been his half-brother, then to all the apostles, and last of all he appeared to me also as to one abnormally born. What was he doing on those days following the resurrection? Who was he meeting with? Why was he showing up as he did? And on the next slide, I've got a synopsis of what we see on that first day, that Sunday. He appears to Mary Magdalene. He appears to the other women. He appears to Cleopas and his companion on the road to Emmaus. He appears to Peter, as we just saw, and then back in the room with Cleopas when they come back with his companion and the other disciples behind locked doors. What I want to do is give you my narrative, my synopsis of what happened that first day. Now, you can go back and read the 4 gospel accounts. They don't conflict, but they also don't line up perfectly because each man is giving a different perspective on the resurrection appearances. But they all have so much in common, and they do not conflict with each other. So what I did was I just put it together as a narrative, looking at all 4 gospels. My wife and I read those gospels on Easter morning, each narrative of Jesus' appearances after the resurrection. And so it goes something like this. Early in the morning, Mary Magdalene and the women who are named in the various gospels, they go to the tomb because they want to anoint Jesus' body. They want to show the respect. I love it. It's so touching. An earthquake had happened before. An angel had rolled the stone back, and so when they arrive, the stone is open. Jesus is not there, and Mary Magdalene leaves to go find Peter and John. Now, Mary Magdalene knows where Peter is because he's just curled up in a fetal position in some alleyway, crying and distraught and totally devastated for his denials of Jesus. Sweet John has gone to find Peter to console him. Mary knows where Peter is. She didn't know John would be there, but when she gets there, she says, the tomb's empty. So the two of them take off running. Now, during this time, the women who have stayed behind at the tomb, the angel says, go back to the disciples and tell them that Jesus has risen, that he will see them in Galilee. Well, on the way back, Jesus appears to these women, and he tells them the same thing. Now, interestingly enough, in Mark's gospel, there's one detail that we don't see in the other 3. There's one detail that Mark says, the angels say to the women, go tell the disciples and Peter. And Peter. And we just saw that he appeared to Peter on the first day. Now that's something that usually passes over us. We don't pay attention to what's going on there, but Mark singles out and tells us that the angel said, and Peter. Now, I can tell you that the early church fathers, the Billy Grahams of the first century, talk about how Mark got his gospel from Peter. He followed Peter around, he wrote down everything that Peter said, and he put it together as a gospel. So isn't it interesting that Peter, being the source, is the only gospel that tells us that Jesus appeared to Peter on that first day, that he was singled out. And imagine what Jesus was doing. Here's Peter. He is at the lowest he could ever be. And Jesus, in his sweetness, singles him out, finds him, and I can just imagine the conversation. Peter, it's okay. It's okay. I love you. I know you blew it. You denied me with oaths after you had been so braggadocious about you would stand beside me if all else left me. You failed, but it's okay. It's okay between us. I love you. I'm going to see you later. I'm going to give you more instructions. You're still my man. Can you imagine that Peter getting that one-on-one with Jesus on that very first day? So now we have Mary Magdalene has come to and found Peter and John, and they take off running. John, in his gospel, I don't know why he feels the need to tell us, but he tells us that he outran Peter. Now, Peter's been dead 25 years or plus or minus. I don't know why he's still got to tell us that he outran him, but he does. Peter comes in behind, and then Mary Magdalene, who obviously cannot keep up with them, comes behind them. Peter and John see, the angel tells them that there's an empty tomb. They start to leave to go back to the disciples. Peter peels off and said, I can just picture him saying to John, I need a little bit of time alone. I got to process this. And that's when Jesus appears to him. They head on back to the disciples, but Mary Magdalene stays behind. Now, sweet Mary Magdalene, she is utterly brokenhearted. And I just think that she just wanted to be near the tomb. She just wanted to be near where her rabbi, her master, the man that had driven 7 demons out of her, 7 being a round number, it may have been many more. Whatever her issue was, he saved her, and she was so eternally grateful and so full of love for him that she just wanted to hang back by the grave, even if it was empty. And that's where we see Jesus appearing to her. She thinks it's the gardener. When he says her name, Mary, suddenly her eyes are open and she sees Jesus because he's called her by name. I wonder if you've had those experiences where you feel like Jesus has spoken to you by just personally calling your name. And when you had those experiences, things change. And I'm sure everything changed for Mary Magdalene. Now, what I'm giving you is my narrative, my color commentary, if you will, for what all the 4 Gospels say. So now we have Mary following the women, and the women are out in front of Peter and John, and they get back to the upper room where they've got all the doors locked. Cleopas and his companion, who I think was his wife. Now in John 19:25, chapter 19, verse 25, we see that the wife of Cleopas, but it's spelled C-L-O-P-A-S, not C-L-E-O, but that was a common thing that happened back in this time. You drop a letter. So in all likelihood, it's Cleopas, and his wife walking back to Emmaus. Jesus appears beside them. Walking along, they don't know who he is. They can't believe that he doesn't know that this Jesus, the Messiah, the long-anticipated Messiah, the rabbi of wonderful, wonderful repute, has been crucified. Then Jesus starts telling them about the Messiah. When they sit down to have, they urge him to come have dinner with them. When they sit down and he breaks the bread and gives thanks, they recognize him, and he disappears. And they just say to themselves, our hearts were burning. We were walking with Jesus. So they rush back to the upper room. They say to the disciples, we've seen Jesus. And they say, yes, Peter has too. All this happens on the first day. They're in the locked room now. Everybody's back together, and Jesus appears before them. They don't have any idea, can this be him? Can this possibly be Jesus? And he says, well, look, give me some fish. I'll eat. Give me something to drink. I'll show you I'm a real person. His body is the same in this moment with the scars, with the holes that had been punched in his arms and in his sides. Now, Thomas isn't there. A week later, now remember that angels had told them to go back to Galilee where Jesus said he'll meet you, but they stay in Jerusalem for a week because it's the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So they stay for the next week. The following Sunday, they're still in the room. Jesus appears again, and Thomas is with them. Now, Thomas had said earlier, I don't believe it. I'll never believe it unless I can put my fingers in those wounds. Now, we might think that Jesus would appear before Thomas and say, really? You can't do any better than that? After all this time, you're going to deny that what everybody else saw? I mean, come on, Thomas. But he didn't. He didn't scold him. He didn't reprimand him. He said, come on over. I know you need this. Come on over. Put your fingers in my wounds. And then he said, now, Thomas, I'm not condemning you, but come on. Now you can start believing. And then he says this, blessed are those who believe in me, who trust me, who surrender their lives to me when they haven't actually seen me physically. That's us. So that all happens on the first day. During the next several weeks, we read that Jesus showed himself to the disciples on many convincing proofs. We see this in Luke, many convincing proofs that he was alive. Various other meetings with the 11 during this 40-day period. And after the 40 days, they're back in Jerusalem for the Pentecost, the Feast of Pentecost. Jesus meets them. He takes them out to the Mount of Olives, and he's lifted up into the sky, into the clouds and disappears. That's at the end of Luke and the beginning of Acts. Now, between that time, Jesus is appearing up in Galilee. Now they're back in Galilee. He met with his brother, his half-brother, who we know ridiculed him during his earthly ministry, and I'm sure he sat down with James and said, it's okay. It's okay. I need for you to be the head of the Jerusalem church. Jesus is showing up on and off during these 40 days. And I think that one of the things that he's just modeling for these disciples is, I'm here all the time. I can show up out of thin air at any moment. As I told you, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I'll always be with you, even until the end of the age. And over 40 days, they're sitting around, and all of a sudden there's Jesus. So I think that what he's doing there, not only is he teaching them during these 40 days, he's instilling in them this confidence that he's always going to be with them. And they can turn to the side, and here's Jesus. Even if they cannot see him, they know he's right there with them. Now, can we live that way? Can we live knowing that he's always with us? Because if we can, then it's going to change everything about the way we live. Jesus is making these appearances. Think about it. Mary Magdalene, who he had driven out 7 demons, who loved him so much she stayed by the tomb even when it was empty. He appears to Peter, who had flamed out so badly that he needed that personal touch. He appears to the women. Now remember, in this day and age, women were so unreliable or so untrustworthy in the eyes of men that they were not even allowed to be a witness in a court hearing. Why would the gospel writers show them as being the first ones to see Jesus, knowing it would bring ridicule and scorn, unless that's actually how it happened? They just wrote what happened. So we have Jesus making these appearances over these 40 days. The Cleopas appearance with his wife on the way back to Emmaus, that one touches me because Jesus takes the Old Testament scriptures and shows them how the Messiah was prophesied to be the Messiah, but also to be crucified and raised from the dead. I would have loved to have been in that teaching session, wouldn't you? But the one appearance that touches my heart the most, and I just want to read it to you from the scripture, and I want to sort of tease it out a little bit as to what's actually going on with this. And matter of fact, I'm going to read it to you this way. It's John 21. Now what's happened is they're in Galilee. This is Jesus' third appearance to the group of disciples. He's appeared to individuals, but it's his third appearance. So it's early on. And Peter says, I'm going fishing. we can just imagine that Peter says something like, enough praying. Somebody's got to earn some money. We got to take care of ourselves. If I don't, it won't. If it's to be, it's up to me. I'm going fishing. So 7 more say, yeah, we'll go with you. So they go out fishing that night. They don't catch anything. As they're approaching shore with the empty nets, tired, hungry, frustrated, they see Jesus sitting on the beach. Well, they don't know it's Jesus right away, but they see a man cooking fish on a fire on the beach. Now, I've never had fish cooked on a fire outdoors. I bet just that imagery is so beautiful to me. It's a cool morning. I have been to the Sea of Galilee several times. I've sat on the shoreline on an early, cool morning with the birds flying, dropping in, trying to catch fish, the breeze blowing, the green hills in the background, the sandy shore by the lake. I can just picture Jesus cooking those fish, and they see him, and he yells out to them, have you caught any fish? Well, no, we haven't. He said, well, throw your net on the other side. Very similar to 3.5 years prior when he told Peter to go back out after a night of fishing with no catching any fish and throw his nets out again. They throw the nets out. They start getting so many fish, it about sinks the boat and breaks the net. They have to call people over. And Peter suddenly realizes it's Jesus. So he leaps out of the boat, swims up to the shore, and the rest start bringing the boat in and dragging the fish in. Then Peter helps them, and Jesus, I can just see him sitting down, enjoying being with his buddies, enjoying being with his pals, just breathing in the fresh air, cooking fish, loving and laughing. That scene just captures my heart. Now afterwards, or after they'd finished eating, he pulls Peter aside and he takes him for a little walk along the shoreline. And here's how it goes. This is the infamous, do you love me 3 times? But there's more going on here than do you love me 3 times. So let's read it as it picks up in verse 15. This is John chapter 21. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, now he says Simon, not Simon Peter. He's taken him back to his original name. Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Now the word there for love is agape love. It's unconditional. It's heartfelt. It's godly type, almost perfect love. Do you love me, agape love? Do you unconditionally love me more than these? Now he may have been pointing to the disciples. He may have been pointing to Peter's fishing gear, because we know Peter's one of those, if I don't, it won't. If it's to be, it's up to me. Can do kind of men. He may have been challenging Peter. Do you love me more than the fish? How you make your living, your fishing gear? But either way, he uses the Greek word, John does. John uses the Greek word agape love. Peter responds, yes, Lord, you know that I love you, but it's not the same word. It's the phileo love. It's Philadelphia. It's brotherly love. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you agape love me unconditionally? Same answer from Peter. Yes, Lord, you know that I phileo love you, like a brother. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? But this time he comes down to Peter's level and says, do you phileo love me? Now, there's a reason why he switches. And there's a reason why he asked him 3 times. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Jesus is restoring him, but he's also sifting him a little bit to show him that he doesn't yet love Jesus as Jesus loves him. Now, I'm going to reread this, and I'm going to read it in the way it would read in the Greek. Now, interestingly enough, a teacher friend of mine who's excellent, Randy Smith, he said, now look, John's doing something with this Greek language that he's writing in. But I can promise you this. 2 Jewish boys walking on the beach were not speaking Greek to each other. So whatever they were saying to each other, John decided to capture it in Greek like this. So here's how it really went. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me unconditionally, from your heart more than these? And Peter says, yes, Lord, you know that you're like a brother to me. And I can just see Jesus shaking his head. You don't get it. So he asked him again. Simon, son of John, do you love me unconditionally from the heart? And Peter gives the same answer. Yes, Lord, you know that you're like a brother to me. And I can just see Jesus shaking his head going, you still don't get it, Peter. So the third time he says, Peter, Simon, son of John, do you even love me like a brother? Do you even love me like a brother? Peter was hurt because Jesus had asked him the third time, but this time, do you even love me like a brother? And he said, yes, Lord, you know all things. You know that I can only love you like a brother right now, that I do not love you with agape love, that I do not love you unconditionally. You know that. And it breaks my heart that you've made that, you've exposed my heart. Now the whole time Jesus is just gently, but with a purpose, bringing Peter to the point of realizing, first off, he sifted him. He allowed Satan to sift him when he let him deny Jesus 3 times, because he knows Peter relies on his own power, and he has to show him, you're never going to be able to lead my church in your own power. And now he's saying you're not going to be able to do it unless you really lead and serve from a place of love in your heart. And that's what he's saying to all of us. You know, if I want you to be a part of the kingdom, I want you to walk and work with me, I want you to help spread the kingdom, but you cannot do it without loving me. If you're just doing it to do it, just to check it off the list, or you feel like it's something you have to do, it's not going to be the same. You know, there are often times when we're praying, I'll hear someone say, and I've said this in the past, I have, Lord, we love you. Father, we love you. Jesus, we love you. What we ought to say is, Jesus, we don't love you the way you deserve to be loved. Jesus, we don't love you as you love us, but help us to love you. Help us to have a loving heart. Only you can instill that in our hearts, because we don't love you like we should. I've been walking with Jesus for 25 years, and I don't love him like I should. Certainly not like he loves me, but I'm closer and closer. So these 3 times walking on the beach, Jesus is drilling into Peter. First off, I want you to understand that if you're going to do this for me, you're going to have to do it from a place of love. And then he's given him very distinct directives. Feed my sheep, feed my lambs, feed my people. You're going to be it, Peter. You're going to lead this new early church. Now, here's what happens next. Peter turns around and sees John following him. And he says, well, what about him? And Jesus must be going, are you kidding me? I just spent this time drilling home to you that you are to feed my sheep. And you're asking me about another disciple? What? What? Peter, are you kidding me? And that's what I think is the way to finish our look at these appearances. Jesus says to Peter, if I want him to remain alive until he dies, what's that to you? You follow me. You follow me. And I think that's the real message for all of us. In every situation, Jesus, my marriage is in the ditch and it's not working, or my business is failing, or my children are upside down, or my family's falling apart. I don't understand where you are. And he would say, what's that to you? You follow me. Yeah, but what about these hypocrite Christians that I see that I just got cheated in a business deal, or I see these priests that are doing these horrible things to these Christians. What's that to you? You follow me. Okay, but all right, I'm trying to read the Bible and believe it, but really, all the animals in the ark, what's that to you? You follow me. Well, what about Adam and Eve? That's a hard story. Jonah in the well, what's that to you? You follow me. In all the confusion of life and all the busyness of life, we make it too complicated. Jesus says, just follow me. Just follow me. I'll show you the way. You remember in John 14, he's telling them that I'm going to see the Father. You know where I'm going. You know the way I'm going. And one of them, I think it's Philip, says, we don't know where you're going, and we don't know the way. And he says, I am the way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. It reminds me of a story, true story. Big burly man, Marine, now a missionary down in the Amazon, was telling me this story, that he was leading a group of 3 or 4 men to a remote village in the Amazon, near the Amazon River. And they got wind that from the guide that there was a demonic villagers coming after them to kill them. So they could not take the gospel to this other village. So they went down deep off of the path, went deep into the bush, and hid out for I don't know how long. But they finally got word that it was safe and they could come back to the path. But there they were, surrounded in the deepest, darkest of the bush of the Amazon. And one of the men said, "How are we ever going to find the way out? We're lost. We're surrounded. How will we find the way out?" And the guide pulled his machete out from behind his back and he started hacking away at the underbrush. And he said, "Get behind me. I am the way out." Now I think about that all so often. Jesus says, "Sam, get behind me. I am the way out. Just follow me. I am the way out." I remember I was in downtown Greenville years ago, and a Canadian couple they approached me and they said, "How do I get to such and such place?" And I knew exactly where it was. It was pretty simple to get there. But as I started to explain it, I could see this dazed look coming over their eyes, and I thought, they're not going to understand. They're not going to remember what I'm telling them. So I stopped and I said, "I'll tell you what, just follow me. I'll show you the way." And that's what Jesus says to us. In all these appearances, he's just driving home, "I'm with you." And thinking of Peter, you cannot sin too much to be forgiven. You cannot deny me, scold me, berate me, blaspheme me. There's nothing you can do to keep me from loving you, and I'm always here to reconcile, to bring you back and restore you. It's what he did with Mary Magdalene, it's what he did with Peter, it's what he did with James, and it's what he does with us. Jesus' appearances, when we study them, we see there's more. You know it. As Jesus would say, "Come, follow me, and find."